What is the difference between Sprint and a Scrum? Hi, my name is Paulus, and I would like to discuss today what these two concepts are. You know, we all start at some point fresh and new into the world of project management. We learn about Agile and Scrum and in general other project management philosophies and strategies. There are a lot of terms in whatever sort of framework we're gonna choose and manage your project, like steer course, working groups, and many other things that you need to learn while you are on the path of becoming project manager or product owner. Now, if you are interested in the difference between the Sprint and the Scrum, I have good news and bad news for you. The difference between the two are that they are both two terms, different terms, but they're linked together because Sprint is part of the Scrum. It is part of the Scrum framework that is being used to manage Agile projects. By the way, Scrum is not actually the same as Agile. Scrum gives meetings, tools, roles for people to work together well and to deliver those products and solutions for the business or the company. While a sprint is a defined period of time for creating a feature for a product or a solution, and it normally takes between 1 week to 1 month. And when the project starts, the team decides how long the sprint should be, depending what kind of project it is. The most times I've seen this, it's about 2 weeks. Okay, well, we understood the difference, but maybe you're interested in understanding what are these Scrum frameworks, or what is the sprint and what do you do in the sprint. And for that, we're gonna explore things a little bit more now in the video. Let's start first of all with the Scrum. As we discussed, Scrum work is a framework that helps people to work together and solve complex problems. It also allows to execute complex projects that have changing requirements or changing needs or changing market conditions. And what it aims to do is split the project in smaller chunks and execute it step by step, prioritize the most important things first, and then delivering various features. The goal of the framework is to learn from experiences and reiterations. Interestingly, the teams are self-organized, which means that they decide what to include in the next sprint and what to work next and what to execute and how much effort they need to put in each of the deliveries. What does it mean to learn from experience, though? It means that every single time the sprint is finished, the team reviews what were successes and what were failures, and then they incorporate that back into the whole process. Therefore, the next sprint becomes even better, gives better results. And we'll discuss a little bit more about that in our sprint concept review. Although the Scrum framework is normally used with technology projects, it's not the only application, and there are a lot of projects that are using Scrum which are not building any technology. They are purely business-based, maybe changing processes. The reason for it is that a lot of it, what Scrum prescribes and how Scrum works, can be applied to in various different combinations. And it's quite robust, and you can almost say that Scrum itself as a framework went through a lot of reiterations to become even better and bring more value to the business quicker. It is true, it's still being used with Agile methodology, and it has those meetings and tools and roles we picked up previously. And that gives pros and cons for this framework. For example, one of the pros is that people don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can take up the Scrum, put in the business, start using the tools that are given, and they'll be on the way to start managing the project successfully. The other pro is that it allows businesses to adapt quickly to the market conditions. Each sprint can adjust and take in new requirements and prioritize them to the ones that has the most value to the business and the client. The con is it's very prescriptive into what sort of tools you're using. And although it's a con, I would still say it's maybe irrelevant because a lot of business will just take the pieces they want from the Scrum framework and just throw the others they don't need. So at the end of the day, they'll just have sort of custom-based Scrum methodology that they apply. The other con is that Scrum as a framework, as the way it was defined, was mostly defined for one team, the team of maybe 5 people, 10, maybe from 5 to 10 people. And that's not really applicable to the whole organization if that organization wants to apply the whole framework. And for that, we then need Scrum of Scrums, or SAFe methodology, also sometimes known as Scaled Agile. The thing is, the Scrum has its own founding fathers, and that's Ken and Jeff. I believe, though, the whole framework was sort of reiterated and worked on by a lot of different teams and businesses, so they're not really fully defining the whole framework, but they were the ones that would suggest and combine the knowledge into guides and so forth. And the 3 words or 3 ways that I think they describe Scrum is that it's lightweight, simple to understand, but very difficult to master. And I would agree. Next, let's look at a sprint. What is sprint? Well, sprint is in the center of the Scrum framework. And actually, this might be one of the reasons you were thinking about differences between the sprint and the Scrum. Fundamentally, the sprint is just an iteration, which normally takes between 1 week and 1 month, something we already mentioned previously. And the project normally decides that in the beginning of the project lifecycle and sticks with it. From that, it's not really much groundbreaking information you can gather, right? How's this helping the Scrum framework to be so magical? The key is in what happens within the sprint, within that iteration. For example, one thing is that we must complete all the tasks we said we're gonna do within that sprint. And then we ship a new version, or we put solution in production within that one sprint. And by the end of the sprint, we have a new version that users or sponsors and so forth can actually access and see. And that's one of the primary reasons you can split the project in bite-sized pieces and deliver it piece by piece. Well, we'll explore all of that now in the video. Sprint planning meeting. Here we go. We're starting to understand a little bit about the sprints. We have 3 personas in sprints or in Scrum, which is a Scrum Master, Product Owner, and the team, a project team or development team. The Product Owner is the one that is managing the backlog. The Scrum Master makes sure that the team is following the Scrum framework and ideas and suggestions. And of course, the team itself that builds, produces a solution and moves the project forward. The point of the meeting is to understand what to include in the next sprint. And you will notice in such meeting, if you ever been in one, that neither really tells others what to do. They all together come up with a consensus and they work as one team to deliver one outcome. Well, now they know what to do. They need to then think about in the same meeting how they're gonna achieve this, which tasks to complete first, where to get the tasks from. I don't know if you thought about it, but they come and start building stuff, but how do they know they're building full solution that the business is able to use and will bring value long term? And for that, the product backlog really helps, or requirements documents as well in other projects. This is where the role of the product owner comes in. The product owner, or in other projects, project manager, product manager, would be managing this product backlog or project requirements document and all the other names you could imagine. In that meeting, this persona would help to understand the team, what are the highest priorities at that point in time for the business and the product. And the team would select from the list of those things that they can actually complete within a sprint. After each sprint, you can always add more features, more requirements to the pot. They will come into the right places in the backlog, and if they are high in priority, they even may be picked up in the next sprint. So that's why the Scrum framework is so flexible, and you could address market needs and business needs very, very quickly. When the team already knows what to build and how they're gonna do it, it's time to create a plan. They kind of need to understand when things need to be done and which things they commit to, so that by the end of the sprint they know that they can tick all the boxes. And for that they create a sprint backlog, which is a smaller subset of the bigger backlog we have just discussed. Finally, and probably the most importantly, we need to evaluate the effort the team needs to give to complete those tasks that they have just selected. Initially in the project, it might be very difficult because the team may have never worked together and may not know how much they can accomplish together in one sprint. So initially you may need to go through 3-4 sprints and evaluate how much effort each task takes. The effort is the measure that is really bespoke to a specific project. You could say that building a dashboard is 10 or 5 or whatever other number. The point being is that when you've done few of the sprints, you can compare the next sprint against what you have done so far, and you can evaluate whether something is higher or lower in complexity and difficulty than what you have done. Then you can sort of decide what is the optimal and effective effort level that the team can complete within one sprint. So let's say it's 55, and if it's a 55, then you never want to have more tasks or more features that would go above in terms of effort in one sprint. Okay, you have your plan, your team is working really hard. Well, what will be helpful is to know that your team is still on track day in and day out. And for that, you need a daily Scrum meeting, also known as a stand-up, because people normally stand up there and don't sit down because the meeting only takes 15 minutes. The ultimate goal of the meeting is to understand what are the blockers and what we can do about them, because these are normally the ones that prevent us to be on time with deliveries. And the structure of this Scrum meeting normally looks like this. You discuss what you have done previous day, you describe what you're gonna do today, and you will highlight various blockers that you need somebody else's help with. You do not solve those problems in the meeting. You wait after the meeting is over, 15 minutes, people go out and do their business and do their deliveries, and you then only solve the problem in structured way after the meeting is finished. Wow, you have done all those great features, you made those releases, and now it's time to show your great work to users and sponsors. You can think about many reasons, but say a few reasons why you would like to have this meeting is that it helps to advertise how well your team is working together and show the great work you have done to a wider organization. The second reason might be even more important because this affects stakeholders and users, and they need to know what is new and different in production now, so that they can address that or can be aware of that and maybe have less questions or start utilize the new features. We have completed our work, we have shared our work with the sponsors, we put our work in production. One last meeting left to go, which is called Sprint Retrospective. These are lessons learned, how they are known in normal project management. The difference though is that sprint retrospectives happen after every single sprint, which means that you have enough time to incorporate all the things you have learned within the same project. In usual project management, lessons learned happen at the end, 6 months down the line, and you can only apply what you've learned in the next project. So using the Scrum's methodology in learning and adapting and improving your sprints, improving the deliveries, I think are much more powerful. Well, I hope you learned something new. I hope to learn about Scrum, sprints, understand the differences, understand how they work together to deliver projects in a much more effective way. If you'd like to learn more about Agile, about project management, check out my blog post. If you like the video, give the thumbs up, subscribe, check all my other videos, and see you in the next one. Bye!